It was supposed to be the beginning of a lifetime together. A wedding, a honeymoon, a new chapter for a highly respected pastor and his accomplished wife, a federal judge. But less than 24 hours after saying their vows, their marriage ended in the most violent way imaginable. Inside a luxury suite at the Ritz-Carlton, Toronto, police officers discovered the lifeless body of Judge Veronica Caldwell. She had been shot 15 times at close range. Her husband, Pastor Nathaniel Montgomery, was found sitting on the edge of the bed, his hands stained with blood, his eyes vacant. In his lap, the murder weapon, a Glock 19, still warm from the final shot. What could drive a man of God to such a violent act? What did he uncover in that suite that made him pull the trigger, not once, not twice, but 15 times? Was this an act of self-defense? Or was this something far more deliberate? In the days that followed, investigators would unravel a series of shocking revelations, secrets buried beneath a polished public image, hidden tensions masked by the illusion of a perfect union. As the trial unfolded, so did the dark truth behind their relationship. Tonight, we take you inside the case that shattered a city and left an entire congregation questioning everything they believed. This is the story of a marriage that lasted just one day and ended in 15 bullets. If you believe stories like this need to be told, subscribe now, because what we're about to uncover is beyond disturbing. Nathaniel Montgomery was a man of conviction, a leader, a shepherd, a voice of moral authority. To the thousands who attended Mount Zion Pentecostal Church, he was more than a pastor. He was a beacon of righteousness. Charismatic, persuasive, disciplined. A man who spoke of purity, of self-control, of devotion to a higher calling. But what happens when the man preaching about salvation is the very one in need of it? Born into a deeply religious household, Nathaniel was raised on discipline and scripture. His parents, devout Pentecostals, instilled in him a strict sense of moral responsibility. By 19, he was already delivering sermons. By 30, he had built a reputation as one of the most influential preachers in Toronto. He was revered, untouchable. But there was one thing missing: someone to stand beside him, a wife who shared his faith and his values. On the opposite end of Toronto's power spectrum stood Judge Veronica Caldwell, a woman of intellect, a woman of ambition. The law wasn't just her career, it was her identity. She fought for justice, argued for fairness, but when it came to her own past, some things were best left unspoken. Born into an influential family in Ottawa, Ontario, Veronica grew up surrounded by power. Her father, a prominent judge, her mother, a political strategist. She was trained to succeed, to be feared, to command any room she walked into. And yet, beneath her tailored suits and measured words, there were secrets. A past that she never allowed to surface. A history she locked away behind courtroom walls. Despite her achievements, Veronica's personal life had always taken a back seat. Until one night, at a charity gala in Toronto, when two powerful forces collided. It was a meeting that felt almost orchestrated. The pastor and the judge, the man of faith and the woman of law. Two figures known for their discipline, their leadership, their unwavering principles. And yet, something pulled them together. Their connection was instant. For Nathaniel, Veronica was the missing piece, an accomplished woman who carried herself with grace, intelligence, and authority. For Veronica, Nathaniel represented something rare: stability, devotion, a love that wasn't transactional. 6 months later, the engagement was announced. The church celebrated. The legal community took notice. The wedding was set. A power couple unlike any other, bound not just by love, but by reputation. They would be unstoppable, or so it seemed. But not all unions are built to last. Beneath the pristine surface of their love story, something was waiting, a truth neither of them could ignore. And before their wedding night was over, one of them would be dead. What happened behind those closed doors? What pushed a man of God to pull the trigger 15 times? The answers would shake an entire city to its core. This was supposed to be the most special night of their lives. But for Pastor Nathaniel Montgomery, it would turn into a nightmare. For months, Nathaniel had envisioned this moment, the culmination of their sacred vows, the final step in a love story ordained by God. But within seconds, reality shattered the illusion. Something was wrong, deeply wrong. Nathaniel Montgomery had spent his entire life practicing restraint, discipline, patience. But in that moment, something inside him unraveled. Nathaniel. What is that? Veronica. Nate. What are you talking about? Nathaniel. What is this? What is this smell? Tell me the truth, Veronica. And then, she confessed. Veronica. Nathaniel. I wasn't always like this. Before you, before law school, before I found discipline, I lived differently. Nathaniel. How different? Veronica. I have been with over 50 men. Veronica. But that's in the past. I changed. I built myself into the woman you fell in love with. Nathaniel. You deceived me. You lied in the name of God. Nathaniel. I want a divorce. The woman who was always in command, who dictated the fate of others with the swing of a gavel, now fought for her own future with her bare hands. Nathaniel. Let me go. Veronica. Nate, don't. Nathaniel. You lied to me. 15 shots, fired in rapid succession, each one echoing down the empty hotel corridor. By the time police arrived, the honeymoon suite was no longer a place of romance. It was a crime scene. 911, what's your emergency? Hotel staff. Shots fired. There's blood everywhere. A guest has been shot multiple times. How many victims? Are they breathing? 1. I think she's dead. Please hurry. Within minutes, the Toronto Police Service swarmed the Ritz-Carlton, their blue and red lights reflecting against the glass facade of the towering building. Officers moved with precision, trained, methodical, knowing that every second counted. But what they were about to walk into was not just another crime scene. It was a bloodbath. Sergeant Mike Reynolds. I've seen a lot of homicides in my career, but this one was different. The sheer brutality. It was personal. You don't shoot someone 15 times unless there's something deeper going on. As the officers moved in, they issued their commands. Loud, firm, unmistakable. But Nathaniel didn't resist. He didn't run. He simply sat there, silent, as if the weight of what he had done had just come crashing down on him. Officer, put your hands up! Drop the weapon! Now! Drop it, Pastor, hands where we can see them. The pastor who once stood before thousands preaching forgiveness was now being led away in handcuffs. His expression was vacant, his body limp. He didn't ask about Veronica. He didn't even flinch when they read him his rights. But inside that room, the evidence spoke for itself. Forensic evidence of 15 bullet casings scattered across the room. Gunshot residue on Nathaniel's hands and sleeves. The Glock 19, its magazine emptied, its purpose fulfilled. Public reaction. A nation divided. Outside Toronto Police Headquarters. By dawn, the news had already spread like wildfire. Reporters stood outside police headquarters, microphones in hand. News headlines, flashing. Toronto judge murdered on honeymoon night, husband in custody. Prominent pastor accused of cold-blooded execution. Shock and outrage, faith leader charged in wife's murder, church member. Pastor Nate. I can't believe it. He's always preached about restraint, about the sanctity of marriage. This doesn't make sense. He's a hypocrite. He killed her. That's not God's will. That's murder. She lied to him. She humiliated him. Nobody's talking about what she did. The question isn't whether Nathaniel Montgomery pulled the trigger. We know he did. The question is, why? Was it self-defense? Temporary insanity? Or was this a calculated execution? As Nathaniel Montgomery prepared for his first court appearance, investigators were already piecing together the final moments of his marriage. What really happened in that suite? Was this a crime of passion, or something far more deliberate? The trial was about to begin, and the truth? It was far from simple. After weeks of emotional testimony, forensic evidence, and psychological evaluations, the fate of Pastor Nathaniel Montgomery rested in the hands of 12 jurors. The trial had exposed every detail of his marriage, his beliefs, his anger, the violence that erupted in that honeymoon suite. Now, all that remained was the verdict. Judge, will the defendant please rise? Juror, in the case of the Crown versus Nathaniel Montgomery, we, the jury, find the defendant guilty of second-degree murder. Judge, Nathaniel Montgomery, you have been convicted of second-degree murder. This court hereby sentences you to 25 years to life in Kingston Penitentiary, with no possibility of parole for 15 years. It was over. The pastor who once stood before thousands, preaching faith and redemption, now faced a future behind bars. His church, once a sanctuary for believers, was shut down, its doors locked indefinitely. The congregation splintered, divided between those who saw a betrayed man and those who saw a murderer. Reaction to the verdict has been swift. Outside the courthouse, emotions ran high as both supporters and critics voiced their opinions. Weeks after his sentencing, Nathaniel Montgomery sat down for an exclusive prison interview. For the first time since the night of the murder, he spoke about what happened. Do you regret what happened that night? I was deceived by the devil in disguise. Are you saying Veronica was the devil? I'm saying that the truth isn't always what it seems. People lie. They pretend to be something they're not. And sometimes, when the truth comes out, it destroys everything. Was this remorse, or was this justification? Nathaniel Montgomery will spend the next 2 decades behind bars, but even now, his story remains a point of controversy. Was he a man pushed to the edge, or a murderer who refused to accept the woman he married? Nathaniel Montgomery remains incarcerated at Kingston Penitentiary. He will be eligible for parole in 15 years. Veronica Caldwell was 36 years old at the time of her death. Justice was served, but was the truth ever fully known? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you love true crime, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth case breakdowns. Until next time, stay safe. Nathaniel Montgomery once stood at the pulpit, preaching about morality, righteousness, and the divine sanctity of marriage. Now, his words are lost within the cement walls of a maximum security prison. His future, uncertain. His followers, divided. But the question remains, was this truly self-defense? Or was this a crime driven by something far deeper? I know the truth doesn't matter now. But there are things I wish had been said in that courtroom. Things I never told anyone. Things I will never be able to take back. Maybe I was wrong. Or maybe I was never meant to know the truth. What was Nathaniel Montgomery about to confess? Was there more to this story than the world was told? Had he, in some way, begun to question his own actions? Or was this simply the desperate musings of a man who could no longer control the narrative? A case that captivated the nation. A story that blurred the lines between justice and morality. And a verdict that, even years later, continues to divide those who followed it. The Montgomery case may be closed, but the conversation? It's far from over. Was this an act of self-defense? Or did Nathaniel Montgomery's deep-rooted beliefs push him to commit an unspeakable crime? Was he a man betrayed, or a murderer who refused to accept the woman he married? We want to hear your thoughts. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Was Nathaniel Montgomery guilty? Drop your opinion in the comments. If you love true crime, subscribe to our channel for more in-depth case breakdowns every week. Hit that like button, turn on notifications, and join us as we uncover the most shocking cases the world has ever seen.